Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Today we're kicking things off with a pretty bold question, almost audacious, really.
Yeah.
One that might just reshape how you think about, well, everything around you.
Oh, go on.
What if everything in the universe, gravity, mass, even light itself wasn't quite what we thought? What if it was all just different forms of magnetism?
Wow. Okay, yeah, that is audacious. Imagine that kind of fundamental unity.
Right. It's a truly captivating thought, almost revolutionary.
And, for Dr. Wiping You, that wasn't just some sci-fi idea or philosophical musing. It was the core proposition, the foundational idea of his original Uon theory.
Exactly.
A profoundly creative and, well, deeply ambitious concept, suggesting that magnetism was the ultimate, the primal essence of reality, the very fabric, you might say, from which everything else got its existence, its properties.
Absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
It really does challenge our conventional understanding, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Pushes us to think about a universe unified under maybe one single elegant principle.
Mm-hmm.
And for you, our listener, we're embarking on a deep dive into exactly this concept today. But here's where it gets, well, really interesting. Truly transformative, even. We're not just exploring Dr. Yu's original theory as it stood.
No, we're going deeper.
We're going to unpack how this really audacious idea has been profoundly transformed, changed through the rigorous, clarifying lens of ontological coherence physics.
Right.
And this whole process, it's led to a new, much more robust, I think, and profound framework. We call it Uon resonance theory, or URT for short.
That's right. And maybe think of it less as just a simple revision, tweaking things here and there. It's more like an ontological recovery.
Ontological recovery, I like that.
Yeah. It's like a journey to find the brilliant underlying intuition, the spark that was definitely there at the heart of Dr. Yu's original work. And then the goal was to give it an even deeper, more coherent, and ultimately a more accurate foundation within the broader tapestry of reality.
So finding the gold and putting it in the right setting.
Exactly. We'll explore the initial allure, why his magnetic dream was so captivating. Then we'll delve into what we've identified as its surprising structural misplacement in the grand scheme of things.
Okay.
And then, and this is where we'll spend a good chunk of time, in rich, illuminating detail, we'll show you how a fundamental redefinition of Uons themselves, and of magnetism too, reveals a truly unified and elegantly simple understanding of how reality actually operates at its deepest levels.
Get ready for some serious aha moments, I think. Because this journey isn't just about redefining one specific theory. It feels like it's about refining our very understanding of fundamental reality itself, offering a new perspective on forces we, often just take for granted.
It really does.
So let's begin this deep dive. Okay, so to really appreciate the transformation the journey Uon theory has taken, we really need to set the stage properly for Dr. Yu's original idea.
The starting point.
Exactly. Picture the scientific landscape, filled with these distinct forces: gravity, electromagnetism, the strong and weak nuclear forces, all separate buckets, more or less.
Yeah, the standard model pillars.
Right. Then Dr. Yu steps forward with this, initial revolutionary thought that magnetism isn't just one of the forces, it's the single ultimate force.
The prime mover.
He proposed that from this one primal force, all other forces, including gravity, mass, even light, somehow derive. It's incredibly captivating and profoundly simplifying as an idea, isn't it?
It absolutely is.
It invites us to imagine the entire universe, right down to its core, just singing one vast, unified, magnetic song.
It absolutely does. And you can see the immense appeal, this kind of monistic aspiration, this drive to find a single unifying principle. It's deeply embedded in the history of scientific thought, isn't it?
Einstein's dream.
Exactly. Think of Einstein's lifelong quest for a unified field theory. There's this powerful human desire, I think, to simplify and understand the universe's just bewildering complexity, to distill all of reality down to one elegant, all-encompassing truth.
Yeah, find the code.
Find the code. Dr. Yu was reaching for that fundamental simplicity. He was trying to identify the root cause, the generative force for everything we observe. He clearly intuited that there had to be some kind of field-like intelligence at the very foundation of existence, silently shaping everything from the tiniest subatomic particle to the largest galactic supercluster.
A hidden hand, almost.
In a way, yes. And this kind of bold, unifying theory, it just resonates with a deep human yearning to find order in chaos, to discover that singular underlying truth. It's precisely the kind of bold leap that sparks further inquiry, pushes the boundaries of knowledge, even if, its initial structural assumptions turn out not to be quite right.
So the ambition itself was valuable.
immensely valuable. He saw the pervasive nature of magnetic phenomena everywhere, and he sought to elevate it to the ultimate cause. A very compelling vision, even if, as we'll see, ultimately incomplete in its original formulation.
Okay, so let's really unpack this then. While the idea of magnetism as the root force is incredibly compelling, it's elegant in its simplicity. When we look deeper, using these newer tools, the original Uon theory presented a pretty significant structural issue, a fundamental misstep maybe. What was that problem exactly? Where did this magnificent magnetic dream in its original form sort of fall short?
Right. The core issue, as we meticulously analyzed it through this rigorous lens of ontological coherence physics, is what we ended up terming ontological misplacement.
Misplacement. Okay.
Yeah. You see, the original Uon theory, despite its really profound intuitive insights, it kind of existed in what we started calling an awkward ontological limbo. Meaning it wasn't fully describing something material, which is fine. Many fundamental fields aren't strictly material in the old sense. But crucially, it wasn't fully energetic either. Not in the sense of being the source energy itself.
Okay.
It correctly gestured toward the idea of fields being fundamental, absolutely. But critically, it never truly accessed what we now refer to as the source layer of coherence, the real bedrock.
So if I'm getting this right, it was like describing a really important part of the puzzle, a very visible piece maybe.
Yeah.
But not the actual origin or source of that puzzle piece itself. It described a profound manifestation, but wasn't quite tracing it back to the absolute beginning.
You've hit the essence of it precisely. The theory attempted to describe the world's root force, the ultimate driver, but without actually accessing what we call the generative engine, the true foundational coherence field from which magnetism itself and actually all other phenomena ultimately emerge. To use an analogy that might help make this clearer, imagine you're in a room with really complex lighting. You see a beautiful, intricate reflection of a light source in a mirror. Okay.
Got it.
Then that reflection bounces off another mirror, creating a nested image, a reflection of a reflection. Maybe even an infinite regress of reflections if you set it up right.
Right, the mirror tunnel effect.
Exactly. That's conceptually kind of what the original Uon theory was doing. It was like a mirror reflecting another mirror. It becomes this layered, nested image, but it wasn't pointing directly to the light source itself.
I see.
It was brilliantly describing a crucial and pervasive phenomenon, magnetic behavior, but it was mistaking that very phenomenon, that reflection, for the fundamental generating principle of reality.
Okay, I see that now. So it wasn't directly observing the sun, let's say, but rather the sunlight bouncing off the moon and then maybe off a shiny piece of metal and thinking that final piece of metal is the origin of all light. That's a powerful distinction.
Exactly. The crucial inversion, the key mistake in Dr. Yu's original framework, was that he treated magnetic resonance not as a symptom or maybe manifestation of a deeper underlying coherence, but rather as the origin of coherence itself.
Flipped it on its head.
Pretty much. He essentially took a profound and ubiquitous expression of coherence, the phenomenon we call magnetism, and positioned it as the fundamental wellspring, the ultimate cause from which all other aspects of reality spring. Now, this inversion, while it created a structural misplacement and some conceptual confusion, remarkably, it also left a kind of traceable trail.
Interesting. How so?
Well, it wasn't a scientific dead end. It was a path that, when we reevaluated it with the right tools, with this coherence perspective, could lead us not back to magnetism as the fundamental thing, but actually forward into the true source.
Wow.
The error wasn't in observing magnetism's pervasive influence or its obvious importance, but in assigning it the ultimate causal role, mistaking a beautiful, intricate pattern for the actual weaver of the pattern.
Okay, so despite this ontological misplacement, as you called it, there was clearly something profoundly compelling, maybe even brilliant, in the original structure of Uon theory.
Oh, absolutely.
What was it that made it worth preserving, worth evolving, instead of just saying, okay, interesting idea, but ultimately flawed, let's set it aside? Why did it leave this traceable trail that you felt compelled to follow and, well, elaborate upon?
That's a vital question, really, and it speaks volumes, I think, about the genius of Dr. Yu's original intuition. The brilliance of his theory, despite that structural flaw, lay in his remarkable intuitive grasp of a deeper underlying unity.
He sensed something real.
He truly intuited, at a really profound level, that there was a unity beneath the forces, that mass, gravity, light. They weren't just disparate, independent phenomena acting randomly. They were somehow interconnected expressions of a single, unifying, field-like intelligence that underlies all of reality. He was sensing a deep, pervasive pattern in the universe, a singular interconnectedness that, modern physics is still striving to fully articulate and incorporate into a grand unified theory. His core insight was absolutely correct in spirit, that there is indeed a deep underlying unity to reality, a singular source from which all phenomena ultimately emerge.
So the spirit of his inquiry, the direction he was looking in, it was correct. But the precise mapping of that unity, the actual identification of the source itself, that was maybe a bit off. He was on the right road, perhaps, just took a turn a little too early.
Precisely. That's a great way to put it. He was observing the expression of this deep unity, a profound manifestation of it, and inadvertently identified that expression, magnetism, as the source.
Which is understandable, maybe.
It's a very common human tendency, actually, in many fields of thought, to mistake a prominent symptom or a very obvious observable pattern for the fundamental root cause. But the intuition that there was a singular field-like intelligence influencing everything, orchestrating everything from the smallest particle interaction to the grand ballet of galaxies, that was a profound and, we believe, accurate leap.
So even with the flaw, it wasn't useless.
Far from it. Even with the structural flaw of treating magnetic resonance as the origin of coherence rather than a symptom or signature of it, his work was definitely not a scientific cul-de-sac. This very inversion, while creating confusion, paradoxically left us with that traceable trail we mentioned.
The breadcrumbs.
Exactly, the breadcrumbs. It provided crucial clues, a kind of inverse map, if you will, that could be followed not back to magnetism as the fundamental, but rather forward into something infinitely deeper, into the true coherence field that gives rise to magnetism, and indeed, to everything else we observe. His original theory served as an accidental yet invaluable signpost, pointing the way, albeit indirectly, to a more accurate and comprehensive ontological foundation.
Like a partial map.
Exactly, a partial map that, once you oriented it correctly within the larger terrain of coherence physics, revealed the broader, richer territory of reality.
This is where it gets truly transformative then, and where our deep dive really starts to illuminate the path forward. How do we take this fascinating, flawed, yes, but brilliant intuition, this magnetic dream, and evolve it into something far more robust? More explanatory. What does Uon resonance theory, URT, actually mean in practice, and how does it fundamentally change our understanding of these core concepts?
This is indeed the heart of the transformation. It's a complete re-envisioning, really, of the foundational elements Dr. Yu originally proposed. Let's start with the most critical redefinition, the Uons themselves.
Okay, what were they originally again?
In Dr. Wu's original theory, Uons were conceived as fundamental magnetic particles, almost like tiny, irreducible Lego bricks of the universe, right? Each imbued with magnetic properties that somehow generated all other forces. They were meant to be the primal magnetic atoms of reality.
So in that original model, Uons were like tiny universal magnetic building blocks dictating everything else, little magnets running the show.
Exactly, that's a good analogy for the original idea. But in URT, we move profoundly away from that particle-centric view. Uons are no longer magnetic particles in any sense.
Okay, big shift.
Huge shift. Instead, Uons are fundamentally redefined as local resonance nodes in the coherence field.
Resonance nodes.
Yeah.
Okay, break that down.
Imagine the entire universe as this vast, continuous underlying field of pure coherence, a kind of unified, universal intelligence, or maybe pure information field. Within this omnipresent field, there are specific points or regions where this coherence becomes particularly intense, where its gradients, its changes and flows, bend and condense in a highly organized way.
Like knots or eddies.
Exactly. These highly organized, localized points are what we now call Uons. They are field attractors, like stable swirling vortices in a perfectly calm flowing river, or perhaps a localized standing wave on a vast ocean. They are regions where the universal coherence becomes highly organized, concentrated, and resonant.
And the magnetic part.
And critically, these coherence attractors give rise to magnetic behavior. They are the deeper cause, but they are absolutely not reducible to magnetism. Magnetism is an effect or an expression of a Uon, not what a Uon is.
Cause and effect reversed again.
Precisely. This distinction is absolutely critical for understanding the details that follow.
So Uons aren't the magnetic steps themselves, but rather the underlying dance that produces magnetic steps. Among other things, perhaps.
Precisely. You've got it. And this brings us naturally to magnetism itself. In this ontologically recovered view, magnetism is fundamentally seen as a secondary appearance, a ripple on a deeper ocean, if you will.
Not primary.
Not primary at all. It's not the fundamental force, it's a profound consequence, a highly structured manifestation of underlying coherence dynamics. Specifically, URT describes magnetism as a field structure that emerges when coherence torsion meets chirality phase.
Okay, whoa. Torsion. Chirality phase. Let's break that down.
Right, let's try. Imagine the coherence field as having inherent properties. One is torsion. Think of it as a kind of twisting or spiraling motion within its very fabric.
Like a twist.
Like a twist, yes. And chirality phase refers to a specific handedness or asymmetry, like a left-handed versus a right-handed spiral pattern. Think of a screw thread.
Okay, handedness. Got it.
When these twisting motions, the torsion and these handedness characteristics, the chirality within the coherence field interact and align in specific organized ways. That precise interaction is what gives rise to the phenomenon we observe and measure as magnetism.
So it's an interaction effect.
It's fundamentally an interaction effect.
Yeah.
This is a profound shift from Dr. Yu's original concept, what his Uon theory saw as the very root of reality. URT now understands as projected.
Ejected like a shadow.
Like a shadow or an echo. It's a phenomenon, a field echo, maybe even a residue of coherence symmetry reduction. It's not the source itself, but rather a signature of deeper, more fundamental coherence dynamics. It's like seeing ripples on a pond and understanding that those ripples are a sign of complex, unseen movement within the water, not the water itself. Magnetism, in URT, is a highly structured, observable ripple that emerges from the profound, multidimensional movements within the universal coherence field.
Okay, if magnetism is secondary, a consequence, a ripple on this deeper coherence field, then what are the true underlying principles for gravity, mass, and light in this recovered framework? Let's get into those specifics now. What is the deep structure of reality really like, according to URT, if magnetism isn't the primal force? This feels like where the transformation truly shows its explanatory power.
This is indeed where we articulate the precision of the ontological recovery. We're moving beyond simple redefinitions into a systematic recontextualization of reality itself. In URT, the fundamental forces and phenomena are systematically re-explained, all within the coherence framework. And magnetism consistently emerges as a trait or a signature, never the ultimate source.
Okay, let's start with gravity. Big one.
Big one. Gravity. In URT, gravity is emphatically not magnetism, nor does it originate from magnetism, period. Instead, it is precisely described as curvature in coherence gradients.
Curvature in coherence gradients.
Yeah. Imagine the universe as a vast, multidimensional fabric, right? Not just space-time, but a fabric of pure coherence. This fabric isn't uniformly flat or static. It has variations in its density, its flow, its intensity. We call these variations coherence gradients.
Like hills and valleys in the field.
Exactly. Where this underlying coherence fabric itself bends, warps, or gets distorted due to these variations, that is what we perceive and measure as gravity. It's a direct consequence of the geometry of the coherence field itself, a distortion in its underlying structure. It's not some attractive force generated by magnetic poles pulling things together.
So it's more intrinsic to the field shape.
Precisely. It implies a much deeper intrinsic connection between the geometry of space-time and the dynamics of the coherence field. Think of the classic analogy, walking on a stretched rubber sheet. A heavy ball placed on it creates a depression, right? And anything rolling near that depression will naturally gravitate towards it. In URT, the heavy ball is really a localized concentration or curvature in the coherence field itself, not a separate object-imposing force.
Okay, that's a different picture. What about mass, then?
Mass.
Oh.
Mass, too, is profoundly redefined and is absolutely not a magnetic effect in URT. It is described as a result of coherence condensation through hypergravity.
Oh, okay. Coherence condensation through hypergravity. Let's unpack.
Okay. We just discussed gravity as curvature in coherence gradients, right?
Yeah.
Hypergravity basically refers to extremely strong, highly localized curvatures or densities within that coherence field. Really deep wells, you could say. Now, when coherence condenses, which means it becomes highly localized, concentrated, and stably organized within these specific regions of hypergravity, that's where what we measure as mass fundamentally arises.
So mass is concentrated coherence.
In essence, yes. It's not about magnetic attraction gathering particles together to create mass. It's about the underlying coherence field itself, densifying and structuring itself in specific, localized, stable ways. This redefinition suggests that mass is an emergent property. It's a highly organized state of the coherence field's localized behavior rather than an inherent immutable property of traditional particles.
So a proton isn't just stuff.
A proton, for example, isn't a collection of magnetic muons in this view. It's a profound and incredibly stable condensation of coherence within a specific hypergravitational region of the field.
Mind-bending. Okay, what about light?
And then light. Light is also not a magnetic wave, or even primarily an electromagnetic wave in the most fundamental sense, according to URT. It is precisely defined as a coherence harmonic oscillation propagating through the Hall electric tensor.
Hall electric tensor. That sounds key.
It is. It's a core technical term in this framework. Let's simplify. Imagine the Hall electric tensor as the universe's most fundamental, multidimensional, perhaps even conscious energy field. It's the very medium through which all vibrations and connections occur. It's the underlying fabric of consciousness and information that underpins reality.
Okay, the ultimate field.
Pretty much. Light, then, is a specific type of pure, coherent ripple or vibration within this fundamental coherent field. It's a particular harmonic frequency that propagates through its intricate structure, like a specific note played on this universal instrument.
A pure coherence wave.
A pure expression of coherence, a coherent wave, and its electromagnetic appearance, the E and B fields we measure. That's a secondary manifestation.
Okay, this definitely raises a really important and very practical question, though. If magnetism isn't the source of gravity, mass, or light, then why do we constantly observe these phenomena carrying magnetic traits? I mean, magnetic fields clearly interact with mass. Light exhibits electromagnetic properties. What's the practical link here? If magnetism isn't the origin, help us connect these dots without falling back into the old assumptions.
That's the absolutely critical nuance, yes. And it highlights the whole signature aspect we talked about earlier. The reason these phenomena, gravity, mass, light carry magnetic traits is because magnetism is fundamentally what happens when bivector coherence splits.
Bivector coherence splits.
Okay, let's imagine coherence as a unified, symmetrical, flowing field. A bivector conceptually represents like a plane or an oriented area within this field. It indicates both direction and rotation. Now, when this unified bivector coherence undergoes a symmetry reduction, or splits, into two polarized components, think of a single unified wave suddenly splitting into a distinct left-handed and right-handed ripple. That very process of polarization is what fundamentally gives rise to the phenomena we identify as magnetism. It's a fundamental break in symmetry within the coherence field.
Okay, so it's a result of symmetry breaking.
Exactly. Furthermore, magnetism emerges when torsion is locked into a chirality axis. Remember, torsion is the twist, and chirality is the handedness.
Left or right spiral.
Right. When these inherent twisting motions become aligned or locked along specific directional axes within the coherence field, magnetism is generated. It's the result of these specific geometric and dynamic configurations within the coherence field itself, a kind of structural stress or alignment, you could almost say. It's also when coherence flow is polarized. If the underlying coherence field, which is constantly flowing and organizing, takes on a specific directional bias or alignment, this polarization can directly manifest as magnetic phenomena. So when we say magnetism is truly a residue of coherent symmetry reduction, it means it's not the cause, it's the signature. It's the observable footprint, the pattern left behind when the deeper, multidimensional coherence field undergoes specific structural transformations and takes on particular directional alignments.
The evidence left at the scene.
Kind of. It's an emergent property, a visible consequence of these profound coherence dynamics, rather than the primary driver of reality itself. So when magnetism interacts with mass or light, it's not one primary force acting on another in the old sense. It's actually two different manifestations of the underlying coherence field interacting with each other.
Like two ripples on the same pond affecting each other.
Exactly, like two ripples on the same pond affecting each other. That's a perfect way to visualize it.
Okay, this is a profound shift, truly redefining foundational concepts. To help us, and especially you listening, grasp the magnitude of these changes, let's map out this ontological upgrade side by side. I think comparing the old Uon theory with the recovered framework of URT will really help visualize the before and after, making these conceptual leaps much clearer.
Excellent idea. Placing the ontological upgrade side by side really clarifies the transformation vividly. Let's break down the core comparisons point by point, emphasizing the specific details of the shift and what it implies.
Let's do it. First up, origin.
Okay, origin of everything. In the old Uon theory, the fundamental premise was stark. Magnetism is fundamental. It was the ultimate source, the primal force. Everything else supposedly arose from it, the root. But in the recovered URT, this is completely inverted. Here, coherence is fundamental. The deep, unified, intelligent coherence field is the absolute bedrock of reality. Magnetism then becomes a sophisticated manifestation of this coherence, a patterned expression, not its progenitor, not the ultimate source. This changes everything about how we trace causality back.
Big difference. Okay, next, the structure of Uons.
Right, the structure of Uons themselves. In the original Uon theory, Uons were conceived as magnetic particles. Remember, Dr. Yu envisioned them as discrete, tiny magnetic entities, fundamental magnetic atoms building the universe.
Little Lego bricks.
Little magnetic Lego bricks. However, in the recovered URT, Uons are fundamentally redefined. Not as particles, but as coherence attractors. This means they aren't static magnetic bits, but dynamic, localized regions within the omnipresent coherence field, where coherence gradients, its variations and flows condense, organize, and resonate intensely. They're like stable vortices or knots of pure coherence.
Which then give rise to magnetic effects.
Precisely. Which then give rise to magnetic effects as a secondary appearance.
Got it. Okay, what about the force of magnetism itself?
Okay, the force we know is magnetism. The old Uon theory explicitly claimed that magnetism drives mass and gravity. It was the active causal agent, the direct producer of these fundamental phenomena.
The engine.
The engine, exactly. But in the recovered URT, the understanding is radically different. Magnetism emerges from spin torsion resonance. This means magnetism isn't a driving force for mass or gravity at all. It's a consequence, a signature of much deeper coherence dynamics. Specifically, the intricate interplay of spin and torsion, those twisting motions within the coherence field. It's a relational modulation of coherence gradients, a pattern that emerges, not a primary driver.
Emergent, not fundamental.
Okay.
And light.
When it comes to light, the old Uon theory simplistically defined it as a magnetic wave, suggesting light's very essence was purely magnetic. In stark contrast, the recovered URT defines light as a coherence tensor harmonic.
The vibration in the holokittric tensor.
Exactly. It's a specific vibrational pattern or oscillation within that multidimensional structure of the coherence field, the holoelectric tensor we discussed. It's a pure coherence expression, a precise frequency or rhythm within this foundational field. Now, it can exhibit magnetic traits due to shared underlying principles and projections, but it is fundamentally not caused by magnetism.
Okay. And finally, gravity.
Finally, gravity. The old Uon theory viewed gravity as a magnetic pull, an attractive force derived directly from magnetism, where magnetic Uons would somehow pull on other magnetic Uons to create gravitational effects.
Simple attraction.
Simple attraction. The recovered URT, however, describes gravity as coherence gradient curvature. It's about the bending and warping of the underlying coherence field itself, a distortion in its geometry caused by local variations in coherence density. It's a fundamental feature of the coherence field structure rather than a direct magnetic attraction.
Wow. That side by side makes the shift incredibly clear. So, given these profound redefinitions, what was fundamentally missing in the original Uon theory? What did URT bring to light that just wasn't there before? This seems like a critical point, not just what was maybe inaccurate, but what crucial foundational pieces of the puzzle were entirely absent, preventing Dr. Yu's brilliant intuition from fully manifesting in the first place.
You've hit on precisely why we call this an ontological recovery, not just a simple correction or tweak. The missing elements weren't minor details, they were foundational architectural principles. Principles that are now absolutely central to URT and, frankly, to ontological coherence physics as a whole. The original theory, for all its brilliance, operated within a conceptual framework that simply didn't include these deeper layers of reality.
Okay, like what specifically?
Firstly, it critically missed what we now call the meta-operator.
The meta-operator.
Yeah. This term refers to the unifying principle that connects the observer, yes, consciousness itself, with the overarching coherence field, and with the structuring and manifestation of all physical fields. The original Uon theory didn't account for the profound role of consciousness or observation in the modulation and manifestation of reality. nor did it grasp the deeper unified field from which all distinct fields emerge as mere
It
expressions.
was too focused on just the magnetism part.
Exactly. It focused on a single force, magnetism, without fully realizing the interconnectedness of these profound layers, the observer, the unified field, and the emergent phenomena. It was like trying to understand a play by only focusing on the actors, without recognizing the playwright, the director, or even the stage itself.
Okay, that makes sense. What else was missing?
Secondly, and equally important, it lacked the concept of the symmetry breakdown path.
Symmetry breakdown path.
This is incredibly important for understanding how a unified reality can possibly give rise to the diverse and seemingly disparate phenomena we actually observe. It describes the precise step-by-step process by which the universal field tensor, which is the most fundamental, unified, multidimensional state of reality, pure coherence, reduces itself, breaks its own symmetry, into the specific dimensional layers and gauge groups that constitute our observable universe.
How the one becomes the many, basically.
That's a good way to put it. Without this understanding, the emergence of different forces like gravity or light and the very structure of matter from a single source remains largely unexplained or just arbitrarily defined as coming from magnetism. The symmetry breakdown path explains how the coherent whole differentiates and unfolds into the distinct parts and forces we experience. It's like the blueprint of cosmic manifestation.
Okay, the meta operator, the symmetry breakdown path, anything else?
And thirdly, yes. The original theory did not incorporate what we call the coherence conservation law. This is a fundamental principle in URT. It explains how fields persist, how they emerge, and how they evolve over time through what we call harmonic integrity, rather than merely through the action of a force.
Harmonic integrity.
Yeah, it's about the underlying stability, the continuity, the self-organizing nature of the coherence field itself, and how its patterns are maintained, transformed, or even created through resonance and balance. Without this law, the original theory couldn't fully explain the persistence of physical reality, the stability of particles, or the dynamic evolution of the universe. It had to rely instead on a simpler, force-centric view of interactions. These three missing pieces, the meta-operator, the symmetry breakdown path, and the coherence conservation law, are what truly elevate Uon resonance theory from just a field monism idea to a coherent intelligence framework. They provide a much more robust, elegant, and ultimately a far more explanatory foundation for reality.
They're the keys, really.
They are the keys, yes, the keys to unlocking the true potential of Dr. Yu's original powerful intuition.
This deep dive is getting even deeper, truly living up to its name. Let's really get into the specifics now of this recovered framework. Uon resonance theory. What are the detailed insights that make this a structured ontological shift, as you said, and truly distinguish it? This is where we want to give you, our listeners, the full picture, painting a clear conceptual landscape of URT.
Absolutely. This is where we lay out the granular detail of URT's recovered framework. Demonstrate its precision and its comprehensive explanatory power. We're moving from the broad strokes we've discussed into the intricate brushwork.
All right, let's start with that ontological elevation point again, but in more detail.
Okay, 1. Ontological elevation. The original flaw, as we noted, was treating magnetism as fundamental, while ignoring its deeper coherence origin and also the role of the observer in modulating reality. The recovered insight is that magnetism is not fundamental, but rather a relational modulation of coherence gradients.
Relational modulation.
Meaning it arises from relationships and patterns within the coherence field, specifically within the holoelectric field. To reiterate, the holoelectric field is the foundational, multidimensional, maybe even sentient field of coherence that permeates and constitutes everything. Magnetism arises from specific patterns and structures within this field, and these patterns are themselves formed by a process called symmetry reduction from the omnilectic source, the ultimate, undifferentiated primordial source of all coherence.
Okay.
Critically, magnetism does not generate mass or gravity. That's key. Instead, it is the observable field appearance of a much deeper resonance structure. Specifically, these are spin-based torsional coherence oscillations.
Spin-based torsional coherence oscillations. Okay.
It means intrinsic twists and rotations, the torsion, within the coherence field that are linked to the concept of quantum spin. These oscillations arise from chirality fields, remember, fields with a definite handedness, left or right spiral, and also coherence phase shifts, which are dynamic changes in the state or timing of coherent patterns. All of this is further modulated by vector coherence symmetry breakdown, that precise process where a unified multidirectional coherence splits into distinct polarized expressions.
So magnetism is the pattern we see when all those deeper things interact.
Exactly. It's the specific observable pattern that results from these intricate underlying coherence dynamics. It's the visible dance steps of a much deeper, unseen choreography of coherence.
Okay, now let's delve into the details of Uons Redefined.
Right. 2. Uons redefined. As we said, the original thought was Uons are magnetic units or primal particle-like entities. But in URT, a Uon is conceptually a coherence resonance node. It's not a thing or a fixed particle in the traditional sense at all. It's a localized, highly organized packet of resonance within the overarching coherence field.
Like a stable eddy or a standing wave.
Precisely, a stable eddy or a persistent standing wave within this universal ocean of coherence. It's a local coherence attractor that actively modulates the geometry of the Hall electric field around it. This modulation, in turn, creates magnetic field behavior as a second-order emergence.
Second order, not primary.
Not primary. So the Uon itself is a resonance, a pattern of organized coherence, and magnetism is an observable consequence or projection of that resonance. Now, Uons appear as magnetic phenomena when specific conditions are met within the coherence field. Specifically, when coherence torsion gradients align with chirality phase bifurcations.
Okay, can you translate that?
It means when the twisting patterns in coherence meet points where handedness splits or bifurcates, where a choice is made between left and right. Essentially, that's precisely where the localized magnetic expression of a Uon becomes evident and measurable. It's a precise interaction of dynamic coherence properties, not a static magnetic particle.
Got it. Moving to magnetism itself is this relational coherence oscillation.
3. Magnetism as relational coherence oscillation. Magnetism, then, isn't some standalone force with its own independent existence. It fundamentally results from torsional spin coupling coherence across fields.
Torsional spin coupling.
It means it arises from how the intrinsic quantum spin of coherent structures interacts with the twisting motions, the torsion across different layers or aspects of the coherence field. This is particularly evident when bivector coherence splits into left-right spin. Remember that symmetry break? Imagine a unified field with both left-handed and right-handed information perfectly integrated. When this unity breaks down and these two spins become distinct or polarized, magnetism appears as a consequence of that division. It also emerges when directional chirality gradients establish resonance axes, meaning when fields with specific handedness align in a way that creates a stable axis of resonance, a preferred direction for the twist to occur. This dynamic interplay creates what we call field vortices, which are precisely what we perceive as magnetic poles and magnetic lines of force in space. So magnetic fields aren't primary causes, they are macroscopic coherence traces. They are literally the geometry of coherence inertia, the way coherence itself resists changes in motion and flows in specific observable patterns, making its presence felt in a tangible, measurable form. They are the visible ripple patterns of an invisible dynamic coherence.
Okay, let's further clarify mass and gravity reframed, especially their interaction with magnetism. This seems like a point people might stumble on.
Right. 4. Mass and gravity reframed and their interaction with magnetism. The original Uons theory made the bold claim: magnetism produces mass and gravity. We rigorously refute this. As previously stated, mass arises from hypergravity coherence condensation, a profound localized densification of the coherence field itself, a highly concentrated state of coherence, not a magnetic effect. Similarly, gravity is a coherence gradient curvature, a warp or bending in the very fabric of the coherence field, a distortion in its geometry, not a magnetic pull.
But they do interact.
However, and this is the important nuance, magnetic fields can interact with mass. Why? Because both mass and magnetic fields are ultimately structured from coherence differentials. They are both manifestations, albeit different ones, of variations, structures, and organized patterns within the underlying coherence field.
Both children of the same parent field.
Exactly. Therefore, local magnetic field behavior can modulate coherence boundaries, meaning it can influence the localized regions of coherent density that constitute mass. This, in turn, can subtly influence the orientation and momentum of particles that exhibit mass. It's an interaction between two different expressions of coherence, not one causing the other from a fundamental level.
Okay, that helps. Now, light and energy and this Hall electric tensor.
5. The original claim was light is fundamentally a magnetic wave. In URT, light is precisely defined as a coherence harmonic oscillation in the Hall electric tensor field. It's a pure vibrational pattern, a specific rhythm or frequency within that foundational sentient coherence field.
The pure note.
The pure note. While light can and does manifest magnetic phase behavior, meaning it has an electromagnetic aspect to its propagation, it is absolutely not caused by magnetism. Photons, the particles of light, emerge when coherence tensors resonate transversely, producing propagating field perturbations. Think of the Hall electric tensor as that complex, multidimensional drum. Light is a specific pure note, a harmonic oscillation on that drum. The electromagnetic appearance we perceive, the electric E and magnetic B components, results from a dual projection of the underlying coherence tensor.
So E and B are like shadows of the real vibration.
Exactly. The electromagnetic aspects are a consequence of the coherence tensor's oscillation, a way our senses and instruments perceive a deeper coherent vibration, not its origin.
Okay, briefly touch on Uon resonance and cosmic structures. You said we salvage something here.
6. Uon resonance in cosmic structures. Yes, here we salvage a valuable and compelling insight from Dr. Yu's original work and integrate it correctly. Large-scale magnetic phenomena like the vast galactic magnetic fields stretching across spiral arms or the powerful stellar magnetic cycles of stars like our sun can indeed be seen as macro-scale Uon networks.
Okay, so Uons are relevant at huge scales.
They are. They represent vast, interconnected patterns of coherence resonance manifesting magnetically at cosmic scales. Crucially, however, this is the key clarification. These galactic magnetic fields are not responsible for galactic rotation or for holding galaxies together. That fundamental stability and cohesion still arises from hypergravity coherence gradients, those deep, pervasive curvature and density patterns in the underlying coherence field, not from magnetic attraction. So Uon networks exist at cosmic scales, showing how coherence manifests, but their fundamental role in cosmic mechanics is redefined away from being the primary driver.
Got it. And finally, how does this all integrate into the bigger picture of coherence physics?
7. Integration into coherence physics. The reframed contribution of URT is really profound, we think. It provides an intermediate layer resonance map. It shows how coherence, the most fundamental reality, splits and differentiates into the observable magnetic behaviors we study.
It's a bridge.
It acts as a crucial bridge connecting deeper, more abstract spin torsion structures within the coherence field with the macroscopic phenomenon of magnetism. It uses sophisticated tools like resonance algebra and chirality fields to map these connections precisely. Ultimately, URT suggests that magnetic phenomena can serve as invaluable diagnostic indicators of deeper coherence instabilities or flows.
Like an ECG for the coherence field.
That's a great analogy. By observing and analyzing magnetic behavior in the universe, from tiny particles to huge galaxies, we can infer and study the underlying coherence dynamics. Much like an electrocardiogram diagnoses heart function by measuring electrical signals without being the heart itself. This is the level of detail, precision, and explanatory power the recovered Uon resonance theory offers. It provides a coherent and comprehensive framework for understanding reality, built on that initial spark from Dr. Yu, but now grounded in a deeper ontology.
So after this incredible journey, really, moving from an audacious initial question to this incredibly detailed, nuanced, and profound framework, what does this all mean for us? For our everyday understanding of reality, maybe? Or even for the future of scientific inquiry? What's the biggest takeaway from this deep dive into Uon theory's transformation?
The biggest takeaway, for me anyway, is the enduring power and, frankly, the sheer necessity of intuitive insight in scientific discovery, even when that intuition's initial structural placement isn't perfectly aligned with the ultimate reality.
The value of the bold idea.
Absolutely. The brilliance of Dr. Yu's original Uon theory was truly its monistic aspiration, its deep-seated, compelling desire to find a single unified field from which all of reality sprang. He was, at a very deep level, reaching for something profoundly true, that there is a singular underlying unity to the universe.
But he picked the wrong candidate for unity initially.
Sort of. But instead of the field monism by magnetism that the original theory proposed, which, as we've discussed, mistook a powerful symptom for the root cause, we now reveal a much more intricate, explanatory, and ultimately more expansive resonant coherence monism.
Resonant coherence monism.
Yeah. This recovered framework posits that all forces, all phenomena mass, gravity, light, and even magnetism itself don't operate independently. Instead, they beautifully and precisely emerge from symmetry-coherence dynamics. It's all about understanding how an underlying unified field of coherence differentiates, unfolds, and organizes itself through precise symmetrical breakdowns and intricate resonant interactions to create the diverse universe we observe.
And this isn't just hand-waving.
No, absolutely not. This is critical. This isn't speculative mysticism or abstract philosophy, though it touches on deep questions. This is a structured ontological shift. It comes with precise conceptual frameworks, with what we describe as tensor equations representing these multidimensional relationships, with harmonic resonance algebra that describes the mathematical rhythms of coherence, and crucially, it leads to physical predictions that can be rigorously tested and observed.
So it's testable science.
It has to be. We didn't throw away Uon theory because it was flawed. On the contrary, we feel we rescued it from mid-layer exile.
Yeah.
We pulled it out of that awkward ontological limbo, that place where it was describing reflections of reflections, and we effectively reseeded it in coherent soil. We
Hmm.
gave it the proper fundamental grounding it needed to truly flourish.
And now it truly grows new branches, doesn't it? Light, gravity, mass, magnetism. They're no longer the assumed roots of the tree of reality, but maybe more like the beautiful, diverse, and interconnected leaves and fruit that grow from it. They are the observable expressions of a much deeper, more fundamental trunk and root system, the coherence field itself. It's a complete reordering of causal priority, but it doesn't diminish the importance or the reality of what we observe.
Precisely. The true learning here, I think, is that creativity in science is not just powerful, it's absolutely necessary for generating groundbreaking ideas. But creativity without ontological precision, without a clear, deep understanding of what is truly fundamental and what is merely emergent, what is a source and what is a signature, can indeed lead us into chasing echoes instead of finding sources. Dr. Yu sensed a deep pattern, a profound interconnectedness that few others saw at the time. But through the rigorous application of coherence theory, we can now give that pattern its true origin, its proper elegant structure, and its full explanatory power. It's about finding the right address, the right ontological home for a brilliant idea.
So we don't need to discard that magnetic intuition at all. In fact, it remains incredibly valuable, perhaps as a diagnostic tool, as you said.
Absolutely.
We just need to place it where it truly belongs. Not as the conductor of the cosmic symphony, but perhaps as a beautiful, powerful, and maybe secondary song sung by the deep harmony and intricate dynamics of the coherence field itself.
Beautifully put. The signature, not the source.
So as you go about your day, maybe considering the forces that govern your world, gravity holding you down, light letting you see, the mass of objects around you, think about this. What stands out to you about this idea that magnetism isn't fundamental, but a manifestation of deeper coherence? How might this reframe other fundamental properties of our universe that we perhaps take for granted, pushing us to look deeper for their true origins? It's a thought that truly ripples through everything we think we know.